Thorpe is there to take the candy.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel, and as always, joining me is Ronnie Big Smooth. Big Smooth, what's happening, man?
Mel, what's going on, man? Glad to be here once again, and thank you everyone for tuning into our show.
All right, not a lot to talk about today, but first, once again, it's the third show in a row, I believe. We will be starting off with a lighter note. On a sad note, this morning, James Radio Kennedy passed away this morning. Now, for those of you guys that do not know who this man is, if you've ever seen the movie Radio with Cuba Gooding Jr., this is the man who that movie is based off of. Reports say he had been battling some health issues, and he finally passed away Sunday morning at a hospice in South Carolina. According to multiple sources, head coach Harold Jones had been looking after him for a majority of his adult years, and they were good friends. And the community of Anderson, South Carolina, has been hit hard by this. I'm pretty sure, people who have interacted with Mr. Kennedy are hit by this. Very sad day for that in the community of Anderson, South Carolina. We like to extend our condolences to the Kennedy family and the family of Harold Jones. I know this man meant.
Definitely.
All right. From that, we go to, again, not a big show today, but I wanted to start off with shenanigans in the NFL. And when you sent me this, I was befuddled, among other things, because I didn't want to believe it. But as I sat and read it, apparently there has been some fraud going on with retired NFL players and the health plan. Smooth, what is going on, man?
So, Mel, I didn't want to believe this either, man. I was literally pulling up to work. I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and just get my mind right for this day. Let me just, cut the car off, do the usual, lock it up because people crazy. They might steal your stuff. And I'm walking to, the front door and everything, about to use my badge to scan in. All of a sudden, the phone goes off and it's like, zoop, zoop. I pull it up. And next thing you know, here's CBS Sports, Yahoo Sports going off like crazy, talking about former NFL players who are retired defrauding the NFL of the Gene Upshaw Fund. Okay. I guess they made false claims of different types of medical equipment and whatnot, to where they said that they needed the stuff and they were claiming reimbursement from this account. Now, the amount that was claimed for was $3.9 million.
Ooh.
$3.4 million that was actually paid out among multiple players. Yeah, man. Now, here's what drove me nuts about that, right? Some of the names that came up, right? So you had Carlos Rogers, who, everybody knows was dealing with some stuff off the field. Definitely sad what happened with him. But outside of that, Clinton Portis and Joe Horn.
Man, yeah, that one.
It hurt, man. It hurt me because you never heard about Portis doing any kind of nonsense off the field. Was always involved in various charities. And
Joe Horn too.
Joe Horn, yeah, man. Joe Horn, hands down to me, Mel. And it's just me. I don't know how anybody else may feel, but he was probably the only player to me that came off arrogant but was fun to watch. You couldn't hate that man. You couldn't hate him. And I'm
not to mention he came out with the best touchdown celebration ever.
Oh man.
That man pulled out a whole cell phone to call his kid. And when I found out about that, it was different it was different hearing the story than watching it on TV. Because when you watch it on TV, it's just like, oh man, he didn't pull out a cell phone. And come to find out, this man did put a cell phone under both goalposts just in case he scored a touchdown on either side of the field.
Man,
Hands down, greatest touchdown celebration ever.
yo, and on top of that, not that, but remember the other one he did when he pulled out the Sharpie?
I thought that was T.O.
Was that T.O.?
Yeah, I believe it was T.O.
I stand correct.
Yeah, T.O. scored a touchdown and gave it to it, pulled out the Sharpie, signed it, and gave it to his agent.
Man, you know what though? That sounds like something that Joe Horn would have did. But that cell phone, yeah, man, I remember that because he knew exactly what to do, where to go, made that call. It probably was the only time that I could think of where a flip phone looked so great on national TV. Because you know how it is, man. When it comes to the flip phone situation, what gets to me is that they honestly have no idea that they're going to make all these different types of phones, Nokias, whatever else, and out of nowhere, here you go, where you see that you have a situation where it's like, oh, I'm going to get a cell phone, I'm going to call this individual, whatever, and say what I got to say, and that pretty much be it. So.
Yeah, but like just reading this story, it's like, I don't know if I'm okay. There's a part of me that is like, okay, you should punish these guys, and I'm pretty sure, you know, at least if you don't punish them, at least make them pay the money back. But then there's another part of me that, as a player, truth be told, I'm already underpaid as it is, you know, because looking at the scenario, when I learned this, I had to learn this as a player myself. I didn't realize that when you get your check, you are taxed for playing in another state. Like, there's a tax for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I forget how much it's for, but as a player, when you're playing a professional sport, you get taxed for playing in other states because that's not your home. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. And like I said, as a player, you're already underpaid anyway with the way your contract's structured. You only get a percentage of your jersey sales, if not all of it, but you know, everybody in the NFL don't have a jersey.
True.
You know, it's a lot going against you in the NFL as a player. So there's a part of me, and just because I'm not a fan of Roger Goodell, it's just, to me, it's just like, yeah, stick him up for all he worth anyway.
Right.
But I understand that there's a punishment coming behind this. Hopefully, you know, I hate to see Portis or Joe Horn or anybody else going to jail for this, but it's looking like that's what's really going to happen. But with everything that's playing out, I think that remains to be seen as of right now. But to hear you, like, when you sent me this, I thought you was joking with me. I thought you were like really pulling a prank, and I was about to be like, man, this is like the worst prank you've ever pulled.
Right.
But as I read it and they were naming names, I'm like, ooh, this is real. Okay.
And I feel the same way, man. I thought it was clickbait at first. You know, they was just having random fake news and all that posted up on Facebook or whatever else. I'm like, that ain't real, but this was real.
Very real. And it could get serious because from what I was reading, they could get up to anywhere from 5 to 20 years in jail.
Man.
And that's big. Yeah, that's crazy. So when we move on from that, I did want to touch on this just because this topic is going to tie in with the next topic. Baltimore Ravens receiver or cornerback Peters was fined $14,000 for a beer in the stand celebration. Now, my question to you is this pushing the envelope, or is this just Roger Goodell not letting the players have fun? Because to me, this looks like Roger Goodell not letting the players have fun because, dude, it's not like he was really going to drink it. They probably poured it on him, but come on, man. You got to let the players have fun with the fans. That's what the fans are there for.
Right. I agree with you. And in this situation, I was a little taken back by it because, like you said, is he going to pull it out and just all of a sudden take his helmet off and just start chugging it down and then run back on the field with a bunch of beer all over his jersey? Like, come on now. That's not going to happen, right? It's like, let them have fun. They're already jumping in the stands anyway with people. I mean, for touchdown celebrations and whatnot, passing stuff off to them, giving them high fives. I mean, it's another way for, players to be able to celebrate with their fans. At the end of the day, there's so much backlash that players will get for doing whatever it is that's in the public eye. So to have something like this happen and to be fined for it, I think it's just petty, man. I feel like let them celebrate, let them have the fun. It's an emotionally driven game. And at the end of the day, if the fans want to do stuff with the players like that, if there's no harm, no foul, why even fine them in the first place?
Right. And that's what like I said, that's what the fans are for, man. They pay hard-earned money to come watch these people, watch these men play every game. Now, when you're there, you feed off the energy of the crowd. So if you're doing good and your team is cheering for you and you playing in places like Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and that crowd is emotionally in the game, what is the problem with celebrating with the fans? I mean, you basically outlawed every team except Green Bay from jumping in the stands because the Lambeau Leap has been grandfathered in. So why are you punishing players for celebrating with the people who run the league, who literally run the league, in my opinion? Because without the fans, you have no money coming in.
Right.
It's crazy, man. I could care less for Roger Goodell, but that's just me. Okay. While we're on the topic of Baltimore, I wanted to introduce a new part of this segment with you, if that's okay, called Burning Questions. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up to you is because we talked about this during the week, and Thursday it kicked off for real. Lamar Jackson officially has the rushing record for quarterbacks with 1,103 yards. He achieved that Thursday against the Jets. I mean, it was the Jets, who cares, but he got the record. So, he surpasses Michael Vick, and him and Michael Vick are the only two quarterbacks in NFL history to rush for 1,000 yards. Burning question to you: does Lamar Jackson get the MVP this year, and why?
I believe he does, and I'll say this. So the reason why is because he has multiple records that will be broken this season alone. So you figure he has a single season rushing record now for most yards as a QB in a single NFL season, surpassing Michael Vick. What people fail to realize too is that he's only 111 yards away passing from being the only NFL quarterback to pass for 3,000 plus yards and rush for 1,000 plus yards in a single season. That hasn't been done yet. So that's going to be something else that he will achieve with 2 games left.
Yep. He's got Cleveland next week, and he's got the Steelers after Christmas.
So you figure 2 games to throw 111 yards, which he's clearly been doing easily, right? So you have that. Also, this past game, he tied Vinny Testaverde for 33 touchdowns in a single season with the Baltimore Ravens uniform. So
okay.
That. So
wait, you talk about the same Vinny Testaverde that played at Miami University, that played for the Browns, who was the reason Bernie didn't get his job back and got let go. Yep. That Vinny Testaverde.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He had 33 yards as a Raven, and that's the most in franchise history as a Raven QB. And Lamar Jackson just tied that this past week as well. So you figure it's 2 more games to break that record as well. So that's a franchise record. And last thing I have, as part of the reason why I feel like he'll get it, he is the youngest quarterback with multiple games where he's passed for 5 touchdowns.
Man.
He got a lot going on.
Yeah, he do. That man is busy.
And they're probably going to push the home field advantage for AFC. Let's just keep it real. I'm just saying.
Well, as of right now, it's looking like that. He's got wins over Kansas City. He's got wins over New England.
Mm-hmm.
And those were coming into this season were the top two teams you needed to beat in order to achieve, home field advantage or at least the first round bye. So if nothing else, as of right now, they have a first round bye, which works out for them because, that lets Lamar heal up. That lets the running backs heal up. Defense gets to heal up. So, that man, mama, there goes that man.
Right.
I wanted to bring this up because it's interesting. It ties in with Lamar Jackson getting the record. A lot of people don't know this. Yes, Michael Vick is the topic of everybody's discussion when it comes to dual threat quarterbacks, meaning they run the ball and throw the ball exceptionally well. But there was a guy when we were younger in 1997 and 98 who actually set the standard exactly, I'll say, 2.5 years before Michael Vick got his chance at Virginia Tech. I don't know if you remember this guy or not, but his name was Michael Bishop. Quarterback for Kansas State. Now, a lot of people are going to argue with me. I don't really care because this is factual. I can back this up.
Right.
You look at the body of work that Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson have brought to the table. In college, Michael Bishop was doing this right before they got into this, like right before we got into the conversations of dual threat quarterbacks. And he was doing it handily. This man, he set the record, believe it or not, he set a record in the AFL for he's actually the only player in arena football history to rush for 100 yards in a game.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that sounds crazy. How do you rush for 100 yards in an arena football game? But it happened. Not only did he do that, he also set the single season record for most rushing yards in a season with 459. So this man was literally the Michael Vick of the AFL, according to multiple sources and multiple players who've played against him.
Right.
But here's the other burning question. If Michael Bishop doesn't kickstart the dual threat conversation, do you think we're talking about Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson in the same way today?
I do not think we would be talking about them the same way. I feel like it would be some kind of, surprise to everybody that it's even happening. To be honest, I'm not even sure if it does happen. Maybe they all of a sudden are forced to have their coaches be like, hey, you need to stay in that pocket. Only run outside when you're trying to make a play or something like that. Maybe the, way the game looks might not have been the same. Or, maybe it would have happened anyway because the way that these offenses are evolving, it may have called for them to be able to do that because of how much of a gap maybe open up the middle. A lot of times they're dropping back for these, 5-step drops and things like that, and they're being rushed. You figure if they're blocked properly and the defensive ends are on the outside trying to contain, and let's say there's a nickel back situation and you only got a couple linebackers out there, the thing is those guys are pretty much in coverage too, or they're going to back up unless they got a QB spy on you or something like that. Next thing you know, you can be the slowest person on earth. There is going to be anywhere from 5 to 7 yards just running north right there if you choose to take that route. So the thing is, you may look at it and go, okay, does QB keep doing that to force the defense to cheat up? Do we make him, use the pocket just for it to spread out and then to run up the middle? So those plays are definitely there. It's just one of those situations where coaches got to figure out, are we going to take that risk or not? But I feel like overall, it's kind of a toss-up, really, as to whether I would be talking about that now. I feel like now in 2019, yes, we'd be talking about it. But back when Vic was playing and, him coming out of Virginia Tech, and let's say we were back in high school, it's 2001, 2002. I don't know if we'd be talking about it then. I feel like now we would be being 2019. But 2002, I don't think that even would have been a thing, man. And even with somebody like, if we go the other route and say, okay, who was actually running the ball growing up before these guys came in the league? I remember Steve Young scrambling a little bit here and there, a lot to kind of save his own life. I don't think he was really trying to, run for 500 yards in a season or something like that. But,
not even close.
Right. It was different. You know what I mean? He's trying to do what's open. He's like, well, I see these yards right here. Might as well go for him. You know what I mean? It's just like his smart QB play, but definitely the rusher.
And mind you, this is 1997 and 98, so we're still in I formation era.
Yeah.
So for him to, here's the stat line for Michael Bishop in 1997 and 1998. In 1997, he passed for 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 566 rushing yards, and 9 touchdowns. So he averaged 3.9 yards a carry.
Ooh.
And in 1998, he threw for 2,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 748 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns, and a 4.2 yard average.
Whoa.
So it's let me for those at home, this is a disclaimer. I am not taking anything away from Michael Vick. In my opinion, Michael Vick is probably the greatest dual threat QB we've seen ever. But if Michael Bishop is not doing this in the Big 12, mind you, he's doing this in the Big 12.
Big 12 though?
Yes, the Big 12. If he doesn't do this in the Big 12 in this era, I don't think we're talking about him. Because here's the final stat I'm going to throw at you. Among this, if you look at 1997 and 1998, his averages, his completions, and averages and yards per carry increased by at least 5 to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1998, he finished second to the Heisman winner, Ricky Williams.
Man, that's crazy. That is crazy.
And like I said, and it just something to bring up because everybody's talking Lamar Jackson is going to be the GOAT. I have no doubt about that. But I think you have to pay attention to the line of succession when it comes to this type of conversation because, you know, it started with Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham takes off. He's shaking, breaking people's ankles, and he's making people look foolish. And he can throw the ball accurately. 1997 and 98 comes along. You see Michael Bishop doing the same thing accurately. 2001, 2002, we got Michael Vick doing it the same way. And a lot of people take Michael Vick for granted because he ran. That man was very accurate, especially with the deep ball. I ain't never seen another pretty deep ball come from a left-handed quarterback.
Man.
Ever. And then before, you know, we get to Michael Vick, Michael Bishop's doing this. And here's another stat for you. I thought I was done, but this just popped across my screen. He's got a ring at 3 different levels of football. He won an NJCAA Junior College Championship, for those that don't know, twice. Back-to-back championships.
Wow.
He won a Big 12 title. Actually, no, he didn't win a Big 12 title. He won a Fiesta Bowl championship.
Ooh.
Now, not only did he win a Fiesta Bowl, he was in the Arena League with the Chicago Rush. They won the championship, even though he wasn't on the team for the last couple of games. They won the championship. And he went to Toronto in the Canadian League and won the Grey Cup in 2004.
Dang. That man won his level.
Exactly. And his CFL statistics are just as mind-boggling as his statistics at Kansas State.
That's crazy. I mean, to be that efficient, man, and then his game just kept evolving from what it sounds like.
Yes. And nobody talks about him just because he wasn't in the NFL that long. I don't care how long he was in the NFL. If you are doing something that we're talking about now, and you were efficient, and not only were you efficient, you were efficient for a long period of time. That man didn't retire. He didn't retire until 2011.
Wow.
So he's been doing this damn near his entire career that we know of.
Wow.
Because nobody talks about it.
That's crazy, man.
So, you know, don't get me wrong. I think Lamar is probably going to smash every quarterback record that has to do with being a dual threat. But if we don't talk about and give the proper respect where it's due, I think we're missing out and we're cheating. We're cheating ourselves as fans because, man, Michael Bishop was doing his thing right before Vic, and then he just passed the torch to Vic that said, "Do your thing."
I totally agree, man. When you put it in that perspective, like you said, there's not much you can really argue with that, man. The stats don't lie.
Numbers never lie. All right, now we're gonna get into some scores because we have to. We talked about the Baltimore game. It was a wash. Jets shouldn't even have been in that game. New England handles Cincinnati 34-13. It's Cincinnati. Seattle squeaks out a win against Carolina 30-24. Tampa Bay beats on Detroit. Stafford's not playing, so it kind of saved Jameis Winston. Chicago squeaks out a game against not Chicago. Green Bay squeaks out a win against Chicago. Kansas City takes care of Denver. And Philly got a win against Washington. Houston beats Tennessee. Arizona and Cleveland. Arizona gets the win against Cleveland 38-24. Now, I know you saw the report. I saw the report as well. The Browns are going to go ahead and squash all the questions, and they decide to keep Freddie Kitchens long term.
My goodness.
Do you think this is a good idea?
No. No.
Damn.
The thing is, okay.
Damn, just like that, huh?
Just like that. Here's how I feel about that. So I've never been one to call for a coach to be let go after the first season. I felt like in the past, it was just too quick, more so than panicking and oh my goodness, we're not in the playoffs the first year, so we gotta let them go. Here's my thing though. With this situation, I mean, you got this rookie coach that comes in with a second-year QB. You got all this talent surrounding you, a wide receiver. You got a really, really mediocre offensive line at this point because you traded away your best lineman to bring in one of those receivers. And then you end up having the top running back in the game, rushing-wise. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, we have this team. We got him. We got Kareem Hunt. All these different pieces put together. And for some reason, he misses out on the simplicity of football. If I play a team, and this is me just, throwing this out there for folks that don't know, and Mel, I'm going to actually talk to you because I expect you to know this kind of stuff real easily, right? If you're playing a team that is horrible at defending the run, do you think your game plan should be kind of key, maybe fixed around the run, or should you be passing? I mean, I don't know.
Hey, look, I'm treating it like Tecmo Ball. If I know Bo Jackson can't be stopped, I'm running it down your throat.
Oh, see, there you go, right? So that's that. Now, here's another question that goes along with it. If you're playing against a team, let's say their passing defense is number 28, they give up 300 plus yards a game, and they have literally probably no pass rush. Do you think you should be throwing or running against that kind of team?
I mean, you could do both at that point, truth be told, because you could use the pass as an extension of the run, and then in other cases you can just throw it down because nobody's able to stop you on defense. So that one, that's kind of a toss-up, but I get where you're going with this. I'm on the fence with this one, and here's why I'm on the fence with this. You, as a coach, you have started out not bad, but you could have done a lot better. You were supposed to beat Tennessee.
My goodness.
You were supposed to beat Tennessee. You've lost to New England. You split with the Steelers, who you could have swept this year for the first time in God knows how long. You got to win over Baltimore, and yet you're not looking like what you were projected to be on paper. And, again, I did say I was giving them 6-10 because of coaching, not because of the talent on the team. And from the looks of it today, I'm not going to say the team quit on Freddie, but he got a lot of disgruntled people in that locker room. And that's something that's going to have to change going into next year, since the Haslams have decided to keep him for an extended period of time. I could be wrong, but 6-8 ain't bad. You got 6 quality wins. And I'm calling them quality wins because, again, you lost to the teams you were supposed to lose to. You lost to the Rams, you lost to the Niners, the Seahawks, the Patriots. You got to win against the Steelers. You got to win against the Ravens. And, you got the Bills, you got the Dolphins, but you lost against the Cardinals and the Broncos. And those 2 losses make you look bad. You're sitting at 8-8 or 8-6 if you actually win those games the way you were supposed to.
Right.
So I think Freddie put a lot of pressure on himself. And, looking at it, I don't think the Haslams or John Dorsey put any pressure on him. I think it all came from him. I think he came in with this chip on his shoulder, which is fine. You're allowed to do that. Everybody's got a chip on their shoulder about something. But when you put the kind of pressure on yourself to the point where you stress yourself out and you don't take time to realize you got help around you as a staff,
yep,
that's kind of on you. And, granted, you got what potentially might be the rushing champion, and the borderline stat that is, with this, Chubb's got 1,200 yards, but he's only got 7 touchdowns.
Man.
Jarvis Landry's 5 yards away from 1,000, but he's only got 5 touchdowns. Baker's got 15 touchdowns. He's got 3,000 yards passing, but his QBR rating is 48.2. So I think this sophomore slump came because Freddie didn't know how to give. That's what you hired Todd Monken for, right?
Right.
You hired him to coordinate the offense, but you're not letting him do his job. And I think the reason the Browns look like this year, with a disgruntled Odell, a disgruntled Jarvis, and Baker having 800 commercials on TV, is because I don't think he knew how to control this team yet.
Nope.
So I'm not going to say, me personally, I'm not going to say this was a bad season. I think this season could have been a lot better than what was expected, or what's been shown, rather. I'll say that. I'll say that, and I'll leave it to you. I think this season could have been a lot better than what's been shown.
No, I definitely agree with you, man. I feel like you said, those 2 losses, the one to Arizona now, and then also to Denver. I mean, those were 2 that I felt like should have easily been taken. And in both games, they got whooped up on because of the Russian defense. And it's just like, where do you go from here? Because you have 2 games left. You got Baltimore coming up, and then you end the season with Cincinnati. Cincinnati, you would think, would be a easily, played game and a win coming up for them. But even the way they played them last time, it was just like, wow, y'all really let them stay in the game. Like, this is crazy. And I'm like thinking now to myself, are they even going to be able to get that win coming up? And Baltimore, I don't see that happening. I mean, that first game was like, okay, we're still trying to figure some stuff out on offense. And, here we go. Let's go out there and do it. And it was just a really well-coached defensive game on Wilk's side. But then outside of that, I mean, Baltimore's been on a tear ever since.
Yeah.
We'll see that happen next week, man. So
Baltimore, as of right now in the playoff standings, Baltimore has at least clinched a first round bye. They've got the division as of today.
Yep.
So you can kiss that goodbye. And then mathematically, I thought today that with the Browns losing to Arizona, I thought they'd be mathematically out, but they're still in it. They're still in the hunt magically because they have tiebreakers over Oakland with the best win percentage in the conference. But you're still 2 games behind Tennessee. You're still 2 games behind Pittsburgh for that last spot. And right now, the 5 and 6 seeds are playing each other in Buffalo and Pittsburgh. And Buffalo's winning right now 7-3 at halftime. So you need a lot of help mathematically and physically, but I don't think they could get it, but 8-8 would be a great push, towards next season. I could be wrong for most Browns fans, but to be watching this and having to pay attention, 8-8 wouldn't be bad because you just missed 8-8 last year. So if I'm Freddie, these last 2 games are important because this could mean a big deal going into next season.
Very true. And like you said, it's about not only winning those out and having that help, but also with the players being disgruntled, it would be nice to go into the end of this year and break 500 and have something else to build on. I mean, you figure last year, nobody saw last year happen because you go from a winless season to a 7-8-1 season, right? In which last year, without those issues at the beginning of the season with like the kicking situation and all of that, I mean, that easily could have been a 9 or 10 win season. And to go from having no wins to being almost in the playoffs last year, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like you said,
yeah,
it gives them something to build on for next year. And all this talk about, people trying to read between the lines and Odell and all of that, and him saying, oh, get me out of here and whatever else that's being put out there. At the end of the day, what folks got to realize is this man has been signed. He had an extension with the Giants. We've picked that up.
And he's stuck
to 2023. So
he's stuck.
He's stuck. In order to get him, man, they have to give up a lot to get Odell. I mean, you might as
well just give up ownership of your team at that point.
Right. Or if you're in a really good team, you might as well give up your starting quarterback and a first round pick. Yeah. I mean, at that point, that's just, and they can't afford them, really. I mean, Browns got the cap space. They can afford them. Who can afford Odell right now other than Cleveland?
Yeah. I ain't got 95 cents, let alone 95 million. But
yeah, let me tell you. It's crazy, man.
All right. Now, before we go to commercial break, I wanted to jump on the NFC side really, really quickly. I wanted to show you this crazy stat line. Okay, remember last week we talked about the NFC mostly, about what was going on in Dallas and Chicago and things like that. And I remember telling you that at the time, there were 4 10-win teams in the playoffs. Like, legitimately, the top 6 teams, 4 out of the 6 were 10-win teams.
Right.
There are now 5. With the win today, Minnesota goes to 10-4. They have the 6th spot. San Francisco dropped to 5th with the loss to Atlanta, even though they're 11-3. This is how loaded the NFC is this year.
Yes.
So they dropped to the 5th seed after being in first place last week. The replacement for them, Seattle, jumps to number 1. Number 2, Green Bay. Number 3, New Orleans. And at lowly 7-7 in the 4th spot, Dallas. And the only reason they got that spot is because they're still a division leader and they hold a tiebreaker over Philadelphia in the head-to-head department.
And the fact that the Cowboys beat the Rams today.
Oh, yeah, they dog walked them, man. Shout out to them shout out to Dak for giving me mad fantasy points.
And shout out to them for being their first team with at least a 500 record.
That is also true. I forgot you did say that last week. You did.
I couldn't help myself because I mean, teams with a record of 500 or more. So it's like do something. You had to prove something at some point. I mean,
yeah.
Man, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And the crazy part about this is they still hold on to the 4th spot because they're a division leader. And they're the only team in the top 6 that don't have a record over 500.
Oh my goodness.
They're 7-7. Everybody else is a 10-win or more team.
Oh man, wouldn't this be a story if for some reason the Cowboys actually end up being like a 9-17 in the playoffs and actually make it past the wild card?
I don't see them. If they shape up, they might have a chance. But as far as the 9-7 it goes, I give them 8-8, and here's why. They got the Eagles again next week.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they hold the tiebreaker over Philadelphia. So all they have to do is just finish the job there.
Right.
And then you got to finish the job against Washington. And Washington ain't been playing bad lately.
True.
So looking at this, you got a tough. You finish your season with two divisional games. The way the NFC East is this year, I don't know, man. I don't know. It could be ugly.
Yeah, that division's definitely a toss-up. I mean, even when they end up playing like the Giants, and you're just like, okay, there's some of these wins and losses where they should have been there and it didn't happen. And like you said, it's a toss-up. They're just kind of trading back and forth at this point. It's like, hey, would you like to be the one that has one game up? Okay, cool. I'll take that. You know what? I'm feeling generous this week. How about we give that back to you this week? Okay. And then we'll see what happens after we both play outside of the division and come back together the following week to play each other. That's what this looks like. It's just like a trade-off or something, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Seeing it all season long. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. A whole season's worth. And the crazy part about this is that, like I said, 5 of the 6 are 10-win teams. So no matter what happens, you're probably going to see a 10-win team. Because as it looks, if Seattle wins out, if Green Bay wins out, those two teams have a first round bye. So then it'll be 3-6. If you figure 3-6, 4 versus 5, you got to see Minnesota.
And that defense, didn't they force 7 turnovers today?
I counted 6, but who cares? They got them. After 5, man, you might as well just leave it alone because it's just crazy. That's how loaded the NFC is. So if Baltimore makes it, they're going to have a tough time in the Super Bowl because whoever make it going to be battle tested.
True. Very true.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back. Going to talk a little baseball because there was a big trade that happened over the weekend. So we'll touch that when we come back. Just stay with us. All right, folks, and we are back. Now, normally our shows are football oriented and, we try to keep it as easy as possible to follow us. But this trade today, or over the weekend rather, it struck me because me personally, Ronnie said he gave up about 10 years ago, but me personally, I was kind of mad at this, but I also saw it coming. Over the weekend, the Indians traded Corey Kluber to the Texas Rangers. As of right now, not all of the deal has been disclosed, but we know Kluber will be going to the Rangers, and a couple prospects will be coming to Cleveland. As the Rangers, one of their top prospects, and you said you gave up on him 10 years ago, so I know you heard about it, but you said you were going to be biased, so I wanted to hear what you had to say before I went any further.
Well, I'll tell you this much. The only thing that makes sense in this entire situation is the fact that, you know, Kluber has been with the club for like a decade, and he's probably on the decline or about to be on the decline. So I get that part of it. But the impact that he has on his team, the various clutch situations that he's been in, and on top of that, just what he's done in the community, like he's just an all-around good dude. And to have somebody like that walk away, it's just like this season or the last couple seasons, I've been trying my best to maybe allow them a chance, to give my fandom another opportunity or whatever. And it's stuff like this that happens that just keeps me out. The biggest thing that got me was I remember them being in the ACLS or ALCS, excuse me, and they were going up against the Red Sox. And I remember this is back when we had, like, you know, Peralta out there and a few other guys, and I couldn't believe the fact that we were up 3-1 and let them come back and win 3 in a row. And they ended up going to win the World Series that year, the Boston Red Sox. And that was the year I was like, you know what? I'm just through. I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. And what got me was, you know, when the Indians were in the World Series a few years back, I'm thinking, okay, you know, we got a chance to actually get one or whatever. And I started watching a little bit closer at that time frame, and they almost got me again then. But even in that situation, you know, here is, you know, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're like, oh, you know, Golden State blew a 3-1 lead. And then the Indians turn around and do it. And it was so funny because my wife was like, man, you know, here's one of them situations, isn't it? I said, yep. Because that night, I'll never forget, the series tied 3-3. It's rain coming down. There's a delay, you know. And it had the makings of a classic Cleveland sports story of a championship not being won, because it was a dark and stormy night, and you know, field up, and we're delayed. Now the momentum's been cut, and I'm like, "Yep, they about to lose this game. Watch, see what happens."
Yeah,
everybody's
like, that's exactly what happens,
and that's exactly what happened, because it just had that makeup of the drama that surrounds Cleveland sports, and I'm just like, "Here we go." So that happens or whatever. And even in the midst of that, right beforehand, they almost pulled me back in again when they first got, like, you know, Kipnis on the team, and back when we had, you know, Sensu Chu. You know what I mean? So, but like the things they did for them at the beginning was pretty exciting. But toward the tail end of that, it was like, oh, well, that wasn't much of a help to us either, you know. But the thing is with the Indians alone that drives me nuts is they'll get these players, they come up through the farm system, which Cleveland has one of the best farm systems, hands down. They always
they do
guys to sell them off. So I'm like, okay, we just are pretty much, you know, building these guys up for other teams in bigger markets to purchase, and that's what it looks like, and it is happening again. So for that reason, I'm just like, I just can't do it, man. I'm sorry. I just can't.
Well, here's my thing. Here's the thing with baseball. A lot of people, for those of our listeners who don't care for baseball or don't follow baseball like we do, there is no salary cap in baseball.
Nope.
None. So because there is no salary cap in baseball, you look at football, your cap is 100 million. You look at basketball, your cap may be 90 million. You look at hockey, the cap may be 65, 70 million. When you get to baseball, there is no rule for how much you can pay a player.
Oh, man.
So when you get to teams like the Yankees, the Red Sox, dare I say the Rangers, Arizona, out there in LA with the Dodgers, these teams in these markets can throw whatever money they have at a person because they are able to. It's not because they're trying to outbid for another player. In some cases they are, but most times they're just throwing money out there to see what kind of player they can land. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, the Indians have, like you said, one of the best farm systems in baseball. So I can't really hold a grudge against ownership because, again, How do you compete with New York and the Yankees are throwing 200 million sitting in front of you? You know, they probably throw it in a briefcase and say, "Look, just sign the contract. We'll take care of everything else." I can't blame them for that, but I also have to look at the reality. And the reality of this situation was Kluber can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And because he can't stay healthy, that's hurting the pitcher staff. You still have Shane Bieber, Mike Clevenger, Carrasco, Aaron Savale, who's on the rise, and Zach Plesac. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of the 5 in the starting rotation are okay. So you have a decent pitcher staff to at least compete in your division. I think this move came because Francisco Lindor's contract's coming up in about a year or so. So with his contract coming up, you know he's a fan favorite. You know everybody wants him to stay. He's even said, like Duke Johnson, I want to stay. So I think personally, looking at it, this move might have been made to try and keep him here.
I could see that as well. I definitely could. But yeah, man, this is one of those feelings, man. It's funny because for me, you know, this is probably the one time where there is no facts. It's just feeling. I just don't like it, Mel. I don't. Okay. My feelings got hurt, man. All right. I don't like it. I think it stinks. Kluber all the way, man. Hey, I'm still going to support him. Him only, not a Rangers fan. Disclaimer. But
nobody is.
I like him. I'm definitely going to support him. Not going to buy his jersey, but I'm going to be like, hey, there's Kluber right there. That used to be a right there. Definitely.
And you know he got to come. You got to come to Cleveland at least twice.
Yeah, that's going to be the weird part. It takes me back to. Oh man, I hate throwing these daggers. So it takes me back to. I remember a Cleveland Indians pitcher by the name of Cliff Lee.
Oh man,
and
we got
him going to the Phillies and how that felt when he came back. It's gonna hit me the same way, man. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I'm sorry, can't do it.
Well, I guess we won't be putting you down for season tickets.
Absolutely not. You know what? At this point, I won't even accept a voucher. Okay, that's how I feel.
Wow.
No voucher, no free hot dogs, none of that. All right, I'm not putting a toe in Progressive Field. Not even a toe.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, well, since you're on War Rant, we'll go from that to the NCAA, and we'll start with the Army-Navy game. Unfortunately, good old Army took the L last night, well, Saturday night, and here's the crazy stat line about this. Malcolm Perry, Navy's quarterback, goes off 300 yards and set a record. And the record is, this is the most rushing yards between either school in the 120-year history of the Army-Navy game.
Man, 304 yards and 2 touchdowns?
And you didn't even have to throw the ball.
That man was 1 for 1 for 1. Do you hear what I'm saying? One throw, caught for 1 yard. So 100% completion by math.
Man.
29 carries for 304 yards. Like, you're averaging over 10 yards a carry. Okay, great.
And did you see, like, most of those carries were over 10 yards?
That makes no sense, man. That makes no sense at all. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah,
I felt the same way because, you know, I'm an Army brat. So it hurt watching that game. But you had to look at it at the downside, too. The downside of this was Army lost 6 defensive starters from last year.
True.
So you had to know it was going to happen. You know, got young guys on the defense. The offense hasn't been where it should. And My thinking was going into this game, they had the momentum coming from Hawaii to this game. But the week off, going into this game, you give Navy extra time to prepare, and this is what happens.
Right.
This is exactly what happens when you give Navy too much time to prepare.
Yeah, that game, man. I don't know. Like you said, they lost 6 starters on defense. So I knew it was going to be a little bit of a struggle. But goodness gracious, 300.
Not 304 yards worth of a struggle.
Yeah, not that at all. I mean, he, with the help of the offensive line, this man just like, you know what? I'm just going to run it. I'm going to keep it. It's cool. I got you. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
That was the ultimate Willie Beeman.
Yes. Absolutely.
I would do this myself.
Right, exactly. And he did. And he ran all up and through them for the length of 3 football fields, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
3 whole football fields.
Yes. And just a side note to this, I'm not political. We're never going to talk about politics on this show. But president number, was it 45, I guess? Because I stopped counting after Obama left. President Trump, rather, signs an order where it gives players at the Army and Navy service academies the option to opt out of their service until they finish their pro career. I'm not a political person, don't like talking politics, but I think this was a good move. I think this was a very good move on his part.
It definitely was. And then him with the whole impeachment thing going on, and all that. I do feel like this definitely was a good move. Because quite frankly, you look at some of the players who have come through the program, who, had to do their service pretty much. And then from there, they were allowed to go into, professional sports if they chose to or whatnot. But I don't know, man. I feel like it definitely is a good move, especially for not just football, but also for basketball as well. And just seeing some of these players or stellar athletes that you have, and granted, yes, because they are at a military school, they're going to be required to be in some type of physical shape. But the thing is, though, I mean, there's some guys who you've seen over the years that definitely could have made a career in the NFL or different places like the NBA or even overseas. And I feel like this definitely is a great move, man. Definitely is a great move. So that's a big one for him, for sure. Yeah. I think that was a good move to make, because Malcolm Perry might have a job in the NFL come the end of the season. Exactly. Him having a chance to run around like that. I mean, let's say he learns how to run some routes. You never know, man. Definitely catch that ball.
Damn the routes, dude. Just sitting back there and let him run. Shit.
True.
304 yards, man. You can't even get that on Tecmo Bowl.
Right. Definitely can't get that. And I guess the last thing I'll say is this regarding that game. I'm gonna just throw this out there because I saw this as well. I know that they're doing some investigating with the whole, gesture for white supremacy. So we'll probably end up hearing something about that coming up in the next week or so. We probably won't cover it on this show, but that's something else they're looking into in case y'all are into that or want to look at it. But it's pretty obvious what was happening, and I don't know. We'll see what happens, but like I said, we won't be covering that here, but it did happen. Just want to throw it out there because I'm still feeling the effects of my Indians rant. So just wanted to put.
Come on, man, bring it in. You need a hug, man. Come on, I got you.
All right, cool. All right, I felt that. Thank you.
Too much fun. Too much going on. Okay, from the Army Navy game, we're gonna jump to Division III, and the semifinals of the Division III football playoffs have happened and passed. And for the first time in a few years, you will see a team not named Mount Union against another team not named Mount Union. This past Saturday, North Central handled Muhlenberg 45-14, and Wisconsin Whitewater squeaks out narrowly against St. John's 35-32. So in the Stag Bowl, you will see North Central against Wisconsin Whitewater. I have to say this playoff bracket did not go anywhere near how I thought it would go. And I can't say I'm mad, but I am intrigued at how this is going to play out. Because this is an interesting Stag Bowl, and teams that you don't normally see, and they're on the biggest stage that they're probably going to see for a while. I'm excited to see what this Stag Bowl looks like, especially being in a warm weather climate such as Texas. Because remember, the Stag Bowl is in Texas this year.
True.
I'm interested. I want to see how this looks.
I'm definitely right there with you. It definitely did not play out the way that either one of us thought that it would. The teams we were trying to pick week to week, some of it panned out, some didn't. I remember you saying that you had a good feeling about Whitewater, and it definitely shows that they are in it. They made it all the way to the final. And like you said, man, I just want to kind of see how it plays out. But the way it's been looking, I mean, North Central's definitely been handling them teams, man, and Whitewater's playing some strategic football. So I don't know. We'll just kind of see what happens, you know. I think it'll be a very interesting game. But so we'll definitely cover that once that passes this upcoming weekend, and y'all make sure y'all stay tuned in for that. But I'm very excited for this one, man.
Yeah, and after both of them have signature wins in the playoffs, one against Mary Hardin Baylor with Whitewater, and then North Central pulls off the upset against Mount Union. I'm excited to see who's going to have the most momentum in this game. Because now that this has played out, I'm interested. Like, I'm all in on this one. So we'll see how this one plays out. And when the dust settles, we'll get you guys that update. Now, from D3, we go to D2. I don't know if you paid attention to the scoreboard this past weekend, but...
Oh, I did.
Okay, so Ferris State goes down to play Ferris State welcomes West Florida in, and West Florida shows why they are in the playoffs as they handle Ferris State 28-14. And on the flip side of that, the Rock, Slippery Rock, ends up going to Minnesota State and gets drubbed,
man,
58-15. So in the D2 championship, you will see West Florida go against Minnesota State. I thought Slippery Rock was going to keep the momentum going, but I think that game took a lot out of them emotionally.
Yeah, they definitely. It's just hard to say, man. Just to take a defeat like that, you're like, wow. So this is it. Back to the drawing board. Got next year coming up. That's pretty much it for them. Didn't think it'll be that big of a margin. I mean, 58-15. Like, what happened? What happened?
I tell you what happened. They got beat on. That's what happened.
Man, I mean, the Rock got cracked in this situation. My God.
Clearly, took a sledgehammer.
Goodness gracious. I mean, there's not much more I can even say about that, man. Now, what I will say, though, is, isn't it true that coming into this finals between Minnesota State and West Florida, Minnesota State is the undefeated team, right?
I believe so, and I can look that up in a split second. Yes, Minnesota State is 14-0 coming into this game, and I believe, if my computer will not be retarded, I believe West Florida is undefeated too, but we'll have to look that up. Yes, no, West Florida is 12-2.
Okay, so you figure Minnesota State definitely has something to prove here. Probably playing with the biggest chip on their shoulder, because I don't think I've seen them getting all the way either. So
I didn't. I did, especially in the game against Valdosta.
That's what I'm saying, man. That Valdosta's the defending champ. You figure to have them earlier on too in the tournament, like they was not getting Minnesota an easy route at all. I mean, they had to battle through to get to this point, so they got something to prove this year, man.
Well, we'll see about that one next week. And if I'm not mistaken, those games should be shown on ESPN. I think D2 might be earlier in the day, or whenever they decide it. But this weekend is going to be packed with football because I know FCS has still got some games going on, and I do know D2 and D3 will have their championships this weekend, or should be this weekend. It remains to be seen with TV details. I know ESPN's going to cover at least one of those.
Yes, I believe it's the I want to say the D2 game. That one's supposed to be on ESPNU.
Okay, so, and then usually the Stag Bowl is carried by ESPN2. I've known that to happen a couple times, so we'll check the schedules and get back to you guys on that one. All right, we got a couple more topics. Last topic that's really big. We all saw it. You saw it. I saw it. We kind of saw it coming. Joe Burrow wins the Heisman. No surprise there, but I did not think he was going to win by such a big margin.
Yeah, that part surprised me too. Because I mean, you have him, and you have Fields, Jalen Hurts, Chase Young, and when I looked at the points, it said Burrow had 109, 104 points, something like that coming in, and then Fields was like maybe near 80 or 79 or something. I'm like, I don't understand why the margin was that big of a difference. I mean, I get it. You look at the QB rating, you look at the amount of yardage differences. Now, what I like, though, is the efficiency piece. So, Fields only had one interception all season, which is really hard to do at the collegiate level since your skills are still developing and you're going against, different types of defenses you're not used to seeing since you're playing college football, whatever. But, man, hands down, it probably was a matter of yardage and QB rating in this situation and number of touchdowns thrown. But that many point difference, that just doesn't make any sense to me at all with the kind of season that both of these guys had and the type of wins that they got over the various teams they played this season. But, I definitely saw, like you said, Joe Burrow winning it overall. The rankings of the other three, there could be some questions there or a little bit of discussion behind that too. I definitely felt like Chase Young made a huge impact for the Buckeyes. I don't think that he would have won it over Burrow this year, but he definitely had a huge impact with the team. And then with Hurts, there's a lot of people that were disgruntled about where he ended up placing at, and I had to remind them that, here's a guy who ran for over 1,200 yards as well, right? But he also had, 18 rushing touchdowns or something like that. So he's done a lot for that offense because he didn't have someone like, a J.K. Dobbins running the ball over there at Oklahoma, So that's something else you got to look at too, is that man literally carried that offense this year. So that's probably why he ended up falling where he did. But, yeah, man, it'll be exciting to see what happens going forward. This is Burrow's senior year, so he'll be gone. Fields will be coming back because he's only a sophomore. And then
Chase Young will be coming back.
Yeah, he declared that he's going to actually be coming back this year. So I know Buckeye fans are very happy about that, to see those two guys coming back next season. So they're definitely going to be in the top rankings once again. And then, Hurts is his last year. So it'll be pretty much wide open coming the next season.
And here's the crazy part about this. We know Joe Burrow, he walked away with it, basically. But he became only the second player in LSU history to win the Heisman. So shout out to them for that, because not a lot of LSU fans get to cheer about something. So that's something to cheer about. Mm-hmm. The stat, it's not even a stat, it's history. The history that I wanted to throw up was Ohio State is the only team in the history of the Heisman Trophy to have a player on offense and defense in the same Heisman Trophy race.
Man.
Do you realize how hard it is to get one player in the Heisman finalists? You had two.
Only get
So
one player in, but a defensive player.
yeah, and there hasn't been a defensive player nominated for the Heisman so I'll say so big since Charles Woodson, and Chase Young has accomplished that. Not only did he accomplish that with having to be in battle with J.K. Dobbins, Justin Fields, you pretty much did it and showed that you can make a play for the Heisman even with being a defensive player and having the offense that you have.
Very, very true. And on a lighter note, I don't know if people have been following these two men, but it's hilarious what Chase Young and Justin Fields are doing with each other. So they've been going back and forth, taking jabs at each other just playfully. And I remember seeing Chase Young make a comment to Justin Fields. He's like, hey, man, I mean, I get it. Burrow won the Heisman. And just to let you know, if he was still at Ohio State, he'd be the one starting.
I had to fight.
I thought that was the funniest thing.
I had to fight him.
Oh man, it was great. Just seeing that kind of humor. It just lets you know how close they become, even in this short period of time, and how much Fields has been embraced and accepted by, Buckeye fans after his transfer. And it's just pretty cool, man, to see him receive that.
Man, I had to talk about his mama on that one.
Man, definitely feel.
You ain't gonna take a shot at me. You ain't gonna take a shot at me if you're gonna get away with it.
Right.
That cut me deep, and I ain't even never played for a Heisman.
Right. It's just, man. I mean, yeah, you gotta read into that stuff, man. It's just hilarious to see them two going back and forth like that. But it's all love.
That's rude. That's rude. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But that's still rude.
Right.
All right. We're probably not going to go to the commercial because, last segment, this last part, not even going to be that long. Just bowl predictions. Because bowl season starts this week, actually. And not a lot of big bowl games coming up. But starting on December 28th, that's when bowl season really kicks in. And there was a couple matchups I wanted to hear your thoughts on. And we're going to start with the December 28th line. And that strikes me because here's the matchup. The first matchup is going to be the Cotton Bowl. Memphis at Penn State. Now, I honestly believe Appalachian State got snubbed on this one.
Yes.
But Cincinnati was ranked. Memphis was ranked. Memphis won the American Conference. I think Memphis might catch Penn State slipping on this one. They got a lot of time to prepare. Everybody watched the Ohio State game against Penn State, so I think Memphis might catch Penn State slipping, but I think Penn State might pull this one out if Coach Franklin has their head on straight.
I agree with you in this one. If there's ever to be an upset of this, not multitude, but like if there's ever to be a upset on this level, I feel like it would be Memphis on Penn State. I do see that Penn State could actually win that game too. I mean, they definitely do have a pretty decent defense. But Memphis's offense is actually very, very sound. That's something that people aren't really paying attention to because of who they play. But they definitely are a solid team. One that's capable of putting up 40 points. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. Like you said, the time to recuperate, the time to actually sit down and study some more film and to prepare for various situations. This is definitely going to come down to maybe a touchdown or two in this game. Should be pretty exciting to watch, man, none the least. So I feel like that's one we're going to tune into and kind of figure out how that plays out afterward.
Right. And this year, instead of New Year's games, the college football playoff will be playing on December 28th as well. So we have the first matchup will be Oklahoma and LSU. I want Oklahoma to win so badly just because, you know, Oklahoma has Jalen Hurts, but LSU has a defense. And one of these people on defense is a man named Derek Stingley. Now, for those that don't know, Derek Stingley comes from a long line of football. And what I mean by that is his grandfather, Darryl Stingley, was a player for the Patriots. Unfortunately, he is that player that took a hit from Jack Tatum, who left him paralyzed. His father was an arena football legend, wide receiver, defensive back. In those days in the Arena Football League, you had to play offense and defense unless you were a quarterback or a specialist. And then you have Derek Stingley himself, number one recruit in Louisiana, number one cornerback in Louisiana. This young man is a monster. If CeeDee Lamb is on the field, I think Derek Stingley will be covering him. I think Stingley takes him out of the equation. And then you have Jalen Hurts. And who else do you have after that?
Yeah, not many people to throw to, man. Doesn't look like it's going to be much happening. There's no known running back in that team right now that's going to be able to do anything and take over the game either. And like you said, defense, man. Oklahoma just does not have the defense to match up with LSU's offense. I don't see this one going in their favor at all. If LSU does happen to slip up, it's going to be more of a mental slip up, if anything. But other than that, I just don't see them losing this game, man. So
I don't either.
It could be close. Who knows? But I feel like it's going to be another ugly one, man.
I think it's close until the second half starts. And once the second half starts, that's where Joe Burrow's already in a rhythm.
Yep.
And once Joe Burrow's in a rhythm, you've seen it. It's ugly. And it's hard to stop him. All right, we move from that one to the second college football playoff semifinal, a rematch of a couple years ago between Clemson and Ohio State. Now, last time Ohio State played Clemson in the college football playoff, they got beat on 31-0. I don't think that happens this year, and here's why. Chase Young has been drawing a lot of attention on the defensive line. OSU's secondary has created one of the better turnover margins in the nation. And I don't think Clemson has the front seven that they thought they had against Virginia to stop J.K. Dobbin. Because now, think about it, you don't have just J.K. Dobbin. You have Master Teague back there too, as well as Justin Fields. So you essentially have a three-headed monster back there.
Yep.
And like I said, you got Chris Olave out there, KJ Hill, and a couple other receivers out there for OSU. So this offense matches up, and you've averaged 35 points a game in your season. In the Big Ten, you've averaged over 40 points a game. So I think Ohio State gets revenge in this one.
In this game, I do feel as though they would get revenge against Clemson. It's one where OSU is definitely looking at that game from a couple of years ago and saying, hey, we are not about to be embarrassed once again on the national spotlight. That was ridiculous. The type of people that we had out there, it made no sense to take an L like that. And they're not going to come out so flat to where they're looking confused like they did a couple of years ago. I do feel as though with Clemson having to worry about Chase Young, that takes away your ability to be able to run certain plays, whether it be dropping back or on the ground. Because, at the end of the day, when he played his last game against Wisconsin, they had 3 people blocking this man. 3. Okay.
Man, I ain't never seen a lineman get triple team.
I've never seen a triple team before in my life. I'm like, you got a triple team going right now? Ooh-wee. So you
had a center, guard, and tackle.
Right. And with the rush, they were like, you know what? We just going to rush 3 guys anyway. Because, we're going to make you basically try to beat us in the air. And that's what happened. And it was like, okay, you can't beat us in the air. You're not going to think about running the ball like that. I mean, you started to. That's like your A game. But after a while, they shut that down too. And little behold, man, like to have a three-man situation, triple teaming one guy because they fear him that much. So with Clemson, they have a little more speed up front. Will be interesting to see how they play against him if they do double team or if they do try to say, hey, let's try one-on-one to see what happens. I feel like Lawrence is a little bit smarter with the football, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get rid of that quick enough. And then also, who knows, maybe the offensive coordinator makes some changes and receivers start running, more drags, more route, more slant, stuff like that. It's a little bit quicker to try to get the ball out in 3 seconds. I'm not sure if they'll do that adjustment, but that's something I would do. And then also on top of that, like you said, man, they haven't faced a running back that's hard to tackle like Dobbins all year. They haven't been up against an offensive line that's as strong as OSU's offensive line. And quite frankly, they haven't had a quarterback to go up against like Fields, who can use his legs but doesn't choose to. But when he does, he will make you pay for it. So that's another thing I look out for. But like you said, man, I feel like they'll come out with the win. I do feel like you do got to give Clemson a little more respect on offense as well. They're definitely going to probably get a couple of touchdowns. So maybe be a little bit closer than people would think, but I don't see OSU losing this game either. So I think OSU comes out and wins this one for sure.
And hopefully Clemson don't have any butt grabbers this year because I keep seeing that Facebook picture of that Clemson player grabbing on one of the Ohio State's players' butts in the pile. So
man,
I'm kind of wondering if that dude's still there.
Yeah, he might be. He might be.
But I did want to throw this stat out before we go. So Ohio State was the first winner of the college football playoff. It beat Oregon in the final. And when they lost to Clemson, they were ranked number 1. So here's the stigma for you. The last time OSU won the college football playoff, they were not ranked number 1. They were ranked number 4. This year, they're ranked number 2. So I'm thinking, and I could be wrong on this, but just looking at the analytics and looking at the past history, Ohio State has a better chance of winning the college playoff when they're not ranked number 1.
Oh, I agree with that hands down. I mean, you look at how they won that last one, how they won the game back in 2002. You got to look at the situation where when they're the underdog, when they're considered to not be that team that's going to go out there and win the whole thing by a bunch of analysts or whoever else versus what's actually taking place on field, they play with a chip on their shoulder. And this is one of those teams that you don't want, that has a chip on their shoulder or someone that feels though they have to prove something. So they're going to come out, man, hitting hard, executing. And the only thing I feel like that's going to be the biggest thing for OSU to watch out for is this. Clemson still has a very high-ranked turnover margin on defense as well. And Fields needs to get rid of that ball. That man needs to stop trying to make sacks. He needs to chuck it if he needs to chuck it, do whatever he has to do. But you do not want to give Clemson an opportunity to score off of a turnover or create turnovers because they've been known to capitalize on that. That's the one thing that can keep the game close.
Right. Well, we'll see because bowl season start this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. Are we going to be right on some of our calls? Are we going to be wrong? We never know. That's why they play the game. All right, folks, that concludes this week's show. We're glad you tuned in. Smooth, it was a pleasure as always. I'm sorry you had to relive bad Indians moments, but it's sports, so it was noteworthy, but hopefully it gets better for you, man.
Absolutely, Mel. It was a pleasure being on the show today. Always a good time chatting and talking sports with you, man. Glad to always, like I said before, to have someone with an unbiased opinion as well. And folks, just to let y'all know, very big week coming up, not only for sports, but for me in the household. Shout out to me and my family. We will be welcoming another little girl on Wednesday. So that's pretty good right now. So
congratulations.
Thank you. This is the third, and this is it. After this. So I'm definitely going to be posting pics for people that do happen to follow me. And then also, we may announce her name on the show next week as well, too. So stay tuned. Definitely glad y'all could check us out.
All right. Yeah, just for noteworthy out there, throwing this out there. We are also not just here on Anchor, but we are on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and now we are on YouTube. So if you are fans of us, follow us on our Facebook page at 4th and 15 with Mel Smooth. We have all of our shows up there, and we'll be posting the link. Shout out to Method 8 Inc. for allowing us to be on their YouTube channel. And our YouTube channel, our show on YouTube rather, will be nothing less than spectacular. So when you guys get a chance, get over to Facebook, like us. We'll probably be on Twitter after the holiday. And, the show's growing. So we appreciate you guys listening. Thanks for showing the love and spreading the word. Smooth. Another girl in the house, man. I feel for you. Whew.
Yeah, man. We were playing man-to-man, first two. Now we're in some kind of a weird zone going on, but we're outnumbered, man. We are outnumbered.
Yeah, I'm praying for you. Hope the wife has a successful delivery, safe delivery, and hope you guys come home.
Thank you.
Just take it easy. If you got time and sleep, we'll catch up on the show next week.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate that.
All right, folks, take it easy. We'll see you guys next week.